Hello people, I'm Ginny Metheral, I'm a fourth generation witch. In a couple of weeks' time, we're coming up to such exciting celebration of the Winter Solstice that we witches and pagans alike call Yule. Yule is especially a wonderful time of year, isn't it? You know, the darkness is really complete, and there are so many different celebrations and traditions and generations of folks celebrating the same thing at the same time that I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the seasonal traditions and the folklore and history behind this wonderful festival. Now, before we go around celebrating Yule, we really should understand what Yule is. It's a bit difficult to say, really. Essentially, we're going to describe Yule as the winter solstice. And the reason why I say essentially is because it was in the 1950s that the Wiccan forefathers, that is Gerald Gardner et al., formalised that Yule should be celebrated on the 21st of December, which is the date that the winter solstice most often falls on. Previous to this, it seems that Yule was celebrated a couple of days later on the 25th of December because this is the birthday of the sun. The day of the winter solstice, the day previous to it and the day after it, to our ancestors, it looked like the sun was standing still because it had travelled furthest south in its yearly dance with the world, and at that point it was directly overhead the Tropic of Capricorn. And then afterwards, it would start moving back towards the northern hemisphere. Now, the birthday of the sun, therefore, is on the 25th of December because this is when they first could understand that the sun was moving again. And during the 3 days preceding this, it was considered that the sun stood still. It was the Wiccans, therefore, who amalgamated these two slightly separate festivals into one and called them Yule. This is one of the oldest celebrated yearly festivals throughout the history of mankind itself. Our very first temples and buildings mark this occasion, not the summer solstice, but the winter solstice, because this is when the sun is born, not when it's starting to, degrade and die. It is clearly obvious, looking at our ancient monuments, that the winter solstice was the one that was venerated the most. In Stonehenge, the winter sun is at its solstice point when it's directly framed between the two largest upright triathlon stones. It also can be seen from the long processional avenue, and that is the pathway of the winter setting sun. There is a very famous burial chamber up in Scotland called and forgive me if I get this wrong, I'm not quite sure on how to pronounce it, but I think it's Maeshowe stones, the Maeshowe, I don't know. Anyway, these stones here. This is a burial chamber, and it is on only one day of the year that the winter sun lights up the inside of this chamber. This signifies that the sun is being reborn, and it's really important to our forebears that they would bury people with this significance that they were going to be reborn. Both Stonehenge and this burial site are, 5,000 years old plus. So they really do date from the earliest of history. And we have been celebrating this particular festival ever since we can remember. So Yule might have been considered Christmas, the 25th. This is the day when you could actually see that the sun starts moving back towards the light on its course around the world. And so it was a hugely popular festival, hence why Christmas is celebrated at Christmas, because there's no known reason why the Christian faith should be celebrating this date apart from it was incredibly popular with the pagans in Northern Europe. And when this Christian faith was really being formed, which remember, it might have been born in the Middle East, but it was formed in European countries, it became very important to overpower the local pagan faiths with their own festivals. And hence it was just sort of a takeover, wasn't it? It's as much as Easter was. Easter is purely pagan in both name, etymology, practice, but the Christians decided to use Easter in order to overimpose their own festival on it because it was one of the favourites of the pagans at the time. So the winter solstice, or Yule, is therefore the longest night of the year. It gets dark very late in the morning and gets dark very early in the afternoon. The sun is directly overhead, the Tropic of Capricorn, at 3:06, I think, this year. I could have got... hold on, let me check. It's at 3:03 in the afternoon on the 21st of December. This is a slightly movable feast, but this is this year's time and date. So because this is one of the most celebrated festivals, there's huge amounts of traditions associated in it. Presents under the Christmas tree is purely pagan. We all know the story of Victoria and Albert popularising Christmas trees indoors. But that wasn't to say they weren't popularised outdoors previous to this. And in fact, they very much were. People would use holly bushes in their front gardens, and often you saw houses had planted holly bushes in their front yards in order to be able to bring protection to their home, and they could use them as a Christmas tree. And it's still very popular today. People still decorate and have Christmas trees planted in their front gardens. The present giving, of course, was always hugely appreciated. There's nothing much to do in these long, cold, dark nights, is there? There's no work to be done outside. Once you've looked after your cattle and your stock and your sheep, there's nothing much else to do. So you sort of sit around knitting or talking or crafting presents for your loved ones, or drinking or partying, or all of the above. And that is what Yule is about, isn't it? Giving presents, having a feast. So in fact, the village next door to Stonehenge shows that there was a huge feast at this precise time of year. I don't know how they know that, but they do. They're very clever archaeologists anyway. They obviously were feasting with abandon at this time. And that's why we do it. All those fattening the goose and the turkey and the chickens and the hens and the pigs and the cows, you fatten them up for Christmas. Fatten them up to celebrate this midwinter festival. We celebrate this birthday of the sun in sort of the same way that we would celebrate the birthday of anyone. You have a cake, so lots of feasting, and you light and blow out some candles, and they used to light some bonfires and, do all sorts of rituals to create the wishes for the future coming true. This is a wonderful day to do this. Now, I do appreciate that you might not have the land to go out and do a bonfire party just wherever you felt like it. But of course, just lighting candles is a very easy option, as long as you're safe. Safety, please, first, folks. Light some candles and blow them out with intent. People used to think that this lighting of fire was also a triumph of the light over the darkness, or it encouraged the sun to come out of its hiding place and approach the lighter months of the year again. It's probably a mixture of all of this. But there's nothing more fun than having a bit of fire. The pyromaniacs in all of us do reach out with glee at the prospect of a good bonfire. We also decorate our homes at this year, don't we? With lots of greenery, lots of wreaths and holly and ivy and mistletoe, possibly the most pagan trio of plants you can ever hope to come across. And in fact, the church used to refuse to have holly, ivy and mistletoe decorating its altar because it was too pagan. You can't get much more magical than mistletoe. It grows up on high, and it should therefore never be allowed to touch the ground. You can't cut it with anything that resembles iron. So you should use a silver sickle or perhaps a bronze sickle. And also, because mistletoe is male in orientation, it should be cut preferably by a female to bring balance to it, unless you want to have a particularly male association enforced into that mistletoe, whereupon the males would cut it. It is a magical plant. Mistletoe is a panacea of good stuff. It helps with high blood pressure. If you rub the juice of mistletoe into your arthritic limbs, it will soothe the pain. If you put the mistletoe juice from the berries onto little pimples on your face, it will dry them up and clear up acne. But it is being researched into the cure of varying cancers, for example. It is a wonderful herb. In that way, it was highly prized by our ancestors because of it, not just for its magical properties. You can kiss under mistletoe, as I'm sure you're all aware, but should you do so, you must make sure to pluck a berry from the sprig. And once all the berries have gone, do not do any more kissing. And that includes, kissing your babies under mistletoe. It's perfectly valid for you to kiss not just your partner, but your loved ones, your friends, and your family. Yule is also especially good for the fair folk, the fairies. They love a bit of Yule, and one of the reasons that we've been decorating our houses with this lovely bright greenery is because in the depths of winter, this bright greenery signifies to the fair folk that we are a safe space for them to join us. And we invite them into our homes so that they can wait out these dark, dark days in comfort and warmth. I love that tradition, and I always make sure that we've got greenery all over the place in our house. I mean, I haven't done it yet because it's actually still November and I haven't started decorating for Christmas, hence why I haven't got any baubles up apart from my beautiful witch's ball. So you'll just have to, imagine it. One of the other things I love about Yule is that it is the time when we should thank the fairies. Now, in the olden days, our ancestors and our forebears used to think that almost every single house had its own fairy elf, or house sprite, or hearth sprite, really. And these were helpful fairies who would cause mischief if you didn't treat them right. The wonderful story by the Brothers Grimm, The Elves and the Shoemaker, which was one of my favourites growing up. I just absolutely adored those little elves in their red and green outfits. However, this is far, far, far older than the Brothers Grimm would have it. They took an ancient story about the fair folk who come in and help within our homes. Now, what you should leave for them is offerings of, they particularly like bread and milk and maybe some wine or some fruit and natural good products that you just leave by your house on the night of Yule. The fair folk also include those sort of flying fair folk, such as Herne the Hunter. He's an antlered hunter who flies about in the sky and sometimes comes down chimneys, which is actually generally where the fair folk enter your house through, which is very similar to Father Christmas, is it not? And his flying reindeer. The Christmas that we know and love, pretty much every single aspect of it is based on our pagan forebears. And therefore, you can happily, as a witch, celebrate Christmas however you please with all your old family traditions, because they are far, far older than you would ever even think. I love Christmas. I love the gift giving. I'm a gift giver, I have to say. I really enjoy the whole process of thinking about the gift, going out and buying the gift, coming back and wrapping the gift, and then looking at this wrapped gift for another however long until you can actually give it to the person and then they open it and go, oh, thank you, and never look at it again. If you would like to learn more about this Wheel of the Year festival, please, why not go to ginnymetheral.co.uk and subscribe to my channel there. There's plenty of extra content on the channel. You can chat with me and you can join the Witchcraft course. It's a nice, easy course done online. You do it at your own pace. I mark your homework personally and give you feedback. So if that is for you, why not have a go? Otherwise, I hope you have an incredibly happy Yule and a very happy Christmas. If you're celebrating both, like I probably will be, don't forget to like and subscribe. And I will see you probably in the new year.